Once upon a time, gay people used to be edgy and cool. You had gay guys like Oscar Wilde who taught us about wit and beauty. You had proud lesbians like Elton John who taught us how to sing. And then you had horror maestro Clive Barker who taught us how to fear. Now, you might be saying to yourself, what's the matter? What's the matter that Clive Barker's a big gay? What is that? What are you implying? What does that have to do with anything? Well, to this I say, quite a bit actually. Quite a bit. Back then, when this book was written, 1980, what is this? What is this? 1986? In 1986, being gay wasn't the corporate advertising pinpoint that it is nowadays. Back then, it was not as widely accepted. You might not believe it wasn't as widely accepted as it is now. It was considered taboo. It was considered outside the norm. But then you have cavalier horror maestros like Clive Barker. Clive Barker, he operated under a more subversive mechanisms. He had to sublimate what would be called today his queer lens through antiquated tools such as talent and tact and narrative. The first story, for instance, in the flesh, two men locked together in a prison cell, one with a dark secret, is dripping, oozing with homoerotic subtext, none of which I can specifically remember, but that you'll just have to trust me is present from page to page, sentence to sentence. Again, you get the sense that you're being introduced to something subversive and taboo, and you are being ingratiated. Picture yourself in 1986. You're a straight-laced Republican Bible Belt man of the cloth, but you have a passing interest in the odd horror fiction. You like the Stephen Kings, you like the Dean Koontzes, and you pick up Clive Barker's In the Flesh because it has a little blurb from Stephen King on the back. And you as you get out of church, you drop the kids off at T-ball, you get out of church, and you pick up Clive Barker's In the Flesh, and you're reading it, and you don't quite understand what's going on, but you feel a vague titillation. You feel it, not necessarily sexual, not necessarily. You're not being awakened necessarily to some latent homosexuality in yourself, but you can see where it's coming from. You can see where it's coming from, and you get just a little bit of titillation, a little bit of I wonder what that might be like. I wonder what that's like. Next, we have the forbidden. Some of yous might know this better when it was adapted into the movie Candyman. The basic skeleton is quite similar to the movie Candyman, but the setting and a lot of the background is quite different. Candyman took place in America, in the American ghetto, and there was a lot of background with slavery. Like the Candyman was a former slave who was murdered for his affair with a white woman. This doesn't have any of that backstory, and it takes place in, I believe, a more British type. What would you call it? What's the British word for ghetto? What's the British projects? I don't know. Anyway, look at how nice and wholesome Clive Barker is. First of all, he doesn't just lead with the leather whips and the strap-on dildos attached to his face. He doesn't lead with Hellraiser. He doesn't lead with the Cenobites. He introduces you to this. Hey, I'm Clive Barker. Hey, I'm a nice, clean-cut guy. And then he eases you into this psychosexual world of demonic thingy-majigs. Anyway, and then so number 3, that brings us to number 3 in the story, the Madonna, which perfectly how do I put this? It's sort of a summation of vagocentric fear. How do I put? I'm at a loss for words now. I'm trying to think. How would the great guys at Time Magazine and the New York Times Book Review describe the Madonna by Clive Barker? It's basically about like vagina monsters, like these two guys, like the ones they're sort of. He tries to sell the guy a building, but little does he know there's some Lovecraftian vagina monsters living in there who rape him, and it's very like. It's very, again, primal, vaginal. It's primal. It's vaginal. It's sort of the opposite coin to in the flesh. If in the flesh is the fleshy pendulum of homoerotic lust, the Madonna is the cavernous vaginal terror of the feminine animus. So yeah, and then the last one, I did not like this one. That's all I got to say about that. I thought Babel's Children was quite garbage. It reminded me of some sort of Douglas Adams, Terry Pratchett, and that's not to say that I don't like those guys, but it just read like a very very cutesy, very British. Did not really fit with the rest of the stories, in my opinion. Didn't have the same sense of sexual dread. It was sort of a light comedy. It was just here's my light witty humorous vamp on the Illuminati, on whatever. I wasn't into that one too much. It's a fun plot-centric book. The prose itself, the writing itself, has a lot of weakness, I feel. There's lots of things that you look at it and you wonder how they get away with it. Like advice that you would get, advice that's typically given to writers to like, hey, don't do this, don't do that. And then you constantly come across these rules being regularly broken in and you just, what's even the point? What's even the point of I wish I had some specific examples to back up these claims. You'll just have to take my word for it. It's very pulpy, very in the vein of pulp horror stuff, but with a bit more of, it has its own flavor, its own subversive flavor that people really take for granted these days. I think they really just sort of have lost the art of nuance, the nuance of true subversion. It's not very subversive when everybody's doing it, you know what I mean? That's another... When I think of Clive Barker, I think of big cigars. I think of a wink and a smile and a big cigar in the guy's mouth. Like, it's a dick. It's a big dick in my mouth. What are you going to do about it? And I appreciate that. I appreciate that time in the world. I appreciate In the Flesh by Clive Barker. Goodbye.